When I was 13, I had just returned from living in Hay River for a little while, and while I was in Hay River I was bullied, and I just kind of really lost my sense of self. And then I came back to Fort McPherson, and my friends were experimenting with smoking pot and drinking, and up to that point I was like a goody-goody. I would have normally said no, but I think, you know, returning to McPherson and feeling a lot of pain, maybe, I gave in, and I had my first drink, and you know, I drank one night and I blacked out. My name is Jolene McDonald, and we need to talk about this stuff. I guess I was interested in going to the leadership program in Fort Smith, and then I decided I didn't want to go, but my parents decided that it was a good idea for me to go because I was getting in a lot of trouble, and they thought it might help me to turn my life around. I guess it did for a little while, but the drinking while I was in Fort Smith just got worse, and I eventually got kicked out of leadership. I moved to Prince George, BC to live with my biological mom and my brother. It was hard to live with my biological mother. Like, that was the first time that I had lived with her, and we just weren't getting along, to be honest, and my drinking and drug use got a lot worse. I was introduced to raves, and that kind of became my whole life, and it was like the perfect place to do drugs and get drunk and have fun and just like not care about things. I did manage to graduate. I graduated a year late, and then I moved home to Fort McPherson, and for a year there actually I was sober. I moved to Edmonton, and one of my raver friends from BC became my roommate, and we just started partying. You know, my life got smaller and smaller because of the drinking. The blackouts never stopped, and they got worse, and it got to a point where I was actually scared to leave my apartment. I started ending up in lots of sketchy situations with really scary people. I would say that I was going to stop drinking, and I would commit to it, and then, I mean, that would last for not very long, and I would get lonely because the only way I could not drink was to isolate and stay in my apartment. First I started with some counseling, actually. I saw a therapist, and she gave me the awareness that, hey, maybe you have a drinking problem. And then I started seeing an alcohol and drug counselor, and I started doing yoga. My sister and I started doing it, and this vivid memory of when it was a Monday, like the class was on a Monday, and I had been partying all weekend long, and I just remember like laying on my mat, laying on my back, and my nose started to bleed, and yeah, there was just this moment where I was like I want this good life, and like yoga like makes me feel good and it brings me into my body, but yet I'm like doing like drinking and doing drugs, and there's just a contradiction there. And I swore off men, and I swore off drinking. I made one of my millions of resolutions, but this time I was serious. But as usual, that actually didn't last, and I ended up pregnant, and that was like the moment of awakening where I realized like my life was completely unmanageable, and it was because of my drinking. I found out I was pregnant, and I wasn't planning on keeping the baby. But honestly, at the time in my life too, like I had such low self-worth, and honestly, I truly believed that it would be my only chance to ever have a child. I didn't think anybody was ever going to love me, and that I would ever have the chance again. And that was the biggest reason for me keeping the baby. The alcohol and drug counselor told me that actually it was a great opportunity for me to go to treatment because I could get in for free. And I knew that like if I didn't do something to help me, that I was probably going to drink after I had the baby. So I took the opportunity and I went to treatment, and that really helped to solidify my sobriety for sure. What I learned about myself being sober was I just can't do it by myself. I need to heal in community. I need sober friends, and I need people who are kind of walking the same path to help support me along the way. And so 12-step recovery is a big part of my story for sure. I also like to spend time on the land. That's just reminds me of why I'm alive, that there's something bigger than me. It just sort of reconnects me to who I am as a Gwich'in woman, and yeah, it just grounds me and helps me to go another day sober. So I continue to do my healing work with my daughter in mind, and I'm just hoping that actually she'll have less to recover from if I continue to do my own work. I hope that in sharing my story, others feel like they can heal too.